It's funny how we see things every single day and never really look at them. Take a $1 bill. You've probably had thousands of them pass through your hands. But what if all those little symbols aren't just decoration? What if they're hiding a story, a really complex, ancient one, tied to a very specific timeline for, well, the end of the world? Let's dive in and see if we can decode it. So the whole idea we're digging into today is that the dollar bill isn't just money. No, it's a map. It's a prophecy. And the key to unlocking it, apparently, is hidden away in one of the most mysterious and debated books ever written. And here it is. This is our riddle. A pretty cryptic verse from the book of Revelation, right? Now, the author of the theory we're examining believes this isn't just poetic language. Nope. They see it as a precise mathematical formula. And figuring this out, well, that's step one to cracking the whole code. Okay, so to really get our heads around this, we have to go way back, almost 2,000 years, to a vision someone named John wrote down. It's a vision filled with cosmic conflict, persecution, and this really mysterious period of refuge. Here's how the theory breaks it all down. You've got this woman who is seen as Jerusalem, or God's people. Then there's this great fiery red dragon. That's the Roman Empire, which was persecuting them. So the woman, representing the early Christians, has to flee into a wilderness for safety. And she's there for this very specific amount of time, a time times and a half a time. So that's the big question, isn't it? How long is a time times and a half a time? Now, most people might just look at that and think, okay, 3.5 years. Easy. But our source material here suggests something way, way different. It argues this isn't poetic, it's a unit of measurement, and it's much, much longer than you'd think. And this, my friends, is where things get really interesting, because the author lays out a very specific way to decode this, using other parts of the Bible to put an actual number of years on this prophetic clock. Okay, so here's the absolute foundation for this whole thing. The theory argues that one prophetic time is not 1 year, it's 430 years. Now, where does that number come from? Well, it's pulled from the time the Israelites were in Egypt and from punishments detailed in the book of Ezekiel. This number, 430, is the key that unlocks the entire calculation. So once you have 430 years as your base number, the math is pretty straightforward. A time is 430 years. Times, which the author interprets as 3 times, is 3 times that, so 1,290 years. And half a time, well, that's half of 430, which is 215 years. You add all that up, and you get a grand total of 1,935 years. So just like that, this incredibly cryptic phrase from Revelation is decoded, at least according to this interpretation, into a very, very specific length of time. But, a countdown is pretty useless if you don't know when it starts. So the theory pinpoints the exact start date, the year 81 AD. This is when the Roman Emperor Domitian kicked off a huge persecution of Christians. The logic here is that this is when the dragon officially went to make war, starting that 1935-year clock. And this brings us to the first really stunning conclusion. You take that start date, 81 AD, you add the prophetic period we just calculated, 1935 years, and you land squarely on the year 2016. Now, I want you to remember that year. Just tuck it away, because we're about to see it pop up again in a place you would never expect. So what on earth does any of this ancient history and biblical math have to do with the United States and the dollar bill in your pocket? Well, this is the part of the theory that connects that ancient prophecy to modern American symbols. The author draws this really direct parallel. Europe, with its long history of religious wars and persecution, is seen as the new Egypt, a place of oppression. And the United States? Well, according to this theory, America is the wilderness. It's the place of refuge where God's people fled to find safety. Let's jump back to that verse from Revelation for a second. How did the woman get to the wilderness? It says she was given 2 wings of a great eagle. A great eagle. Does that ring any bells for you? And there it is. The connection is made absolutely explicit. The great eagle from the prophecy is interpreted as none other than the American bald eagle, the centerpiece of the Great Seal of the United States, the very symbol that would, in theory, help God's people fly across the ocean to their new refuge. And now we come full circle, right back to the dollar bill. And get ready for this, because here's the second, completely separate calculation that the author presents. This one uses the pyramid on the Great Seal. At the bottom, you've got the year 1776. The pyramid has 12 levels. The theory assigns 20 years to each level. So 12 times 20 is 240 years. You take 1776, you add 240, and what do you get? 2016. The exact same year. So, with the year 2016 locked in as this crucial anchor point, not just from one but from two totally different calculations, the source material then lays out a very specific timeline of events that it says are supposed to follow. According to this interpretation, 2016 kicked off the final 7-year period mentioned in the book of Daniel. That period ends in 2023, when the kingdom supposedly begins. From there, a living temple starts being built in 2027, and it all culminates in a second coming in the year 2034. Okay, so we've got the what and we've got the when. But why? Why is all of this supposed to be happening? What is the grand purpose, the end game, behind this incredibly intricate prophetic clock? Well, this is where the author's final conclusion ties all these different threads, the Bible, the dollar bill, American history, into one single, massive, overarching theory. The grand theory is essentially this, that modern-day Christians are, in fact, the literal genetic descendants of the so-called lost tribes of Israel. America was just a temporary pit stop, a safe haven. And this entire prophetic timeline we've been looking at, it's all about the final gathering of these scattered people back to Israel to finally establish a kingdom on earth. And to support this really big claim, the source points to verses like this one from the Gospel of Matthew, where Jesus himself says his primary mission was for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The author of this theory takes that completely literally, not as a metaphor, but as a mission to find these physically scattered tribes. So, when you step back and look at the whole shebang, what the source presents is a single, unified narrative. It attempts to connect everything. Complex numbers from the book of Revelation, the symbols on a US dollar bill, the entire history of America as a place of refuge, and this huge theory about the true identity of Christians. It is an unbelievably detailed and complex web, weaving together history, scripture, and symbolism. And really, it leaves you with one final kind of mind-bending question. The next time you pull out a dollar bill, are you going to see just a piece of paper? Or are you going to see a possible key to a puzzle that's 2,000 years in the making?